Everybody.
in the green room.
Everyone,
We're live, Jeff.
we're live.
You're live.
Oh my goodness, we're live. It's Monday. If it's Monday and we're live, you know it's time for.
Ask the Oracles.
And today we have an incredibly special show with an amazing special guest. Monte and Amy, please introduce your dear friend.
The Queen of Crime, Lynda La Plante, who is one of our very dearest friends. I think we've known her for about 20 years, Lynda.
Yeah.
It can't
And
be.
we miss you so much because it's been about 2.5 years since you've been here. You used to come out to where we live and we would have such fun. And I know you are such a worker with your books, and that this lockdown has probably been so productive for you, right?
Yeah. I mean, it was lovely not to be disturbed, which sounds dreadful, but, the time you could have in solitary confinement without having, oh, you've got to go here, you've got to go there. But at the same time, I'm very fortunate because I live near a beautiful park. So I could have great walks.
We feel the same way. I mean, we felt a little guilty because we really enjoyed having that time to be creative and to think about what we wanted to write about. And luckily, we had a few book deals. Now we're a little itchy. I mean, it's spring. Happy spring, everybody. So everything, this seems like a new hopeful time, a time of renewal, and we can get out a little bit more. But I know in the UK, it was a very severe lockdown.
Yeah. Oh, very serious. And, I'm still wearing my mask out grocery shopping. And on the buses, I think most people are masked up.
Yeah.
But I just think one has to be very, very careful because there's another breed coming in now. I don't know what it is. It's a new one that they're spotting.
The BA2. But we need to do a proper introduction of yourself, Lynda. I see those BAFTAs behind you, but could someone please tell the world who Lynda is in the world of crime? And
yes. Monte will do the introduction.
Lynda La Plante, the Queen of Crime Drama, creator of the PBS series Prime Suspect, starring Helen Mirren, winner of 3 British Academy Awards, that's what the BAFTAs are, an Emmy, and the Edgar, the little strange thing behind you to
that's
the right.
The Edgar Allan Poe Award.
Right. Yeah, from the Mystery Writers of America, as well as CBE, Commander of the British Empire, given to her by Queen Elizabeth, who we wish well in the second for services to drama and charity. Author of over 30 crime novels, and boy, are her arms tired, and a British Sunday Times #1 bestseller. Writer and producer of 170 hours of primetime international television. Good Lord, Lynda, 107. Sorry.
We watched all of them.
I think we have watched all of them. And plus,
I'm so terribly old. I was asked the other day by a journalist interviewing me, and she said, so now you're nearing 80. How do you feel? I said, well, 80 is the new 50s, all right?
Yes,
yeah,
good.
We agree.
We agree.
And I'm not 80 at all.
No, not at all. But 80 is the new 50.
She's not allowed to interview you ever again.
Yes, really.
I know. They do twist things there that you say. You've got to be very, very careful what you say now. Everything is twisted.
Yes.
You really can't. Now the editing of a book and all the words that you can and can't say is beyond belief.
Oh, that's.
You can't describe people. If you can't say blind, for example.
Wow.
I didn't know
Sight
that.
impaired. You go, yes, but they can't see anything. So it's not impaired. They're blind. No, you can't use that. No, you can't use that, Lynda.
You can't say mentally ill, I don't think.
Mentally challenged.
Yes.
But one of the things that doesn't say on this thing I was reading is how many actors you've given their first major role to. Ian Glenn, Rhys Ifans, and Idris Elba, and people like that. But
you know something, they very rarely ever say thank you.
Oh
no, they don't. Actors, and I can always be as rude to actors as I like because I was one for so long. But they're the most thankless mob. They have no notion of the risk I used to take
Yeah.
When I would take a complete unknown and draw them in and make them comfortable, give them a lot of encouragement, and make sure the other actors has treated them and looked after them, and the directors looked after them. And then they make it big and you go, thank you very much, never hear another word.
It's so interesting because I always think you're so intuitive. You're always ahead of your time when you spot a talent like that. And you're Pisces, just because our audience is into astrology and all of that.
Yeah.
But you do, I think you use your intuition so much in your writing as well, because you seem, when you're describing your characters and talking about a book you're working on, it's like they're alive. You see them, their height, their hair color, their personality, how they think, how their wheels turn.
It is odd, you know, the people that know me and work around me, I think that they would actually know me, but they don't. And the other day, Nigel, who's worked for me for how many years?
Wait, is he watching? Is he watching?
He works in an office downstairs,
Okay,
Okay.
but he's not in today.
okay, good.
But anyway, he walked in and he said, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't know you had company." And I said, "I don't have company. I'm talking to myself." He said, "What? But you were doing voices."
I love it. Wow. Wow.
Yeah, there's the character. And it is, because you can actually hear me all over the place doing voices, laugh, crying sometimes.
Oh,
Very interesting.
Well, because you're an actress.
Yeah.
that's why
But
you're the
when
best storyteller.
Yeah, when you give a break to an unknown, it's very exciting when you see them fly. It would be even more pleasant if they did recall and say thank you, but they don't.
I'm sorry I
And
said
it's
a
like
word.
over and over again, the ones that I've plucked out of obscurity
Yes.
and are flying high. It's and directors. I also like to find really good directors.
Did they say
and-
thank you?
Yeah, they do. I'm sorry, I've just got company here. He's nudging me. Can you see his head?
No,
Not yet.
I want
Oh, is
to.
Hugo there?
Here we go.
Hugo.
Hugo is in the house.
He's
Hugo
in.
is a house.
Go away. Hugo is here. Sorry.
So cute.
Almost.
Oh my
He
God.
does have a habit of knocking the screen off. I've just got his head held in a grasp here. I
Just
tell
in case.
you what is wonderful is when you see a director like there's a lady called Aisling Walsh. She has, I call her, she's like the actor's, you know, horse whisperer. And I've watched this wonderfully little Irish lady go up to actors and draw from them the most brilliant performances. I don't know what she says to them, but she whispers and she fights like a demon for her artist. And she recently was doing a movie for the BBC and suggested that she use Glenda Jackson. And, you know, all these people at the BBC said, "Oh, no, you can't use Glenda Jackson. She's in her mid-80s, 90, isn't she?" And she said, "Yes, she's just done King Lear on Broadway, so she has no problem learning lines."
Ooh.
But she had to fight for her.
Wow.
And she got her and she won the BAFTA for Best Performance.
Amazing.
And she's a little fighter, this director, and I love her work. Very, very special. And so it's like she is a very close friend. And did you see his nose come in? It's like I've got
It's like you're doing an
something
interview
funny, you know, something
and
funny.
wrestling. It's like you're
You
doing
know the Julian Fellows new series that he's got. It's not Downton Abbey. I can't remember what it's called.
it says a
The
spin-off?
Gilded Cage or something.
I haven't seen it. Is it good?
Oh no, very boring. But what's really good about it is when the intro music starts for the Gilded Cage, Hugo howls. He goes, "Whoa!" And why? I don't know. He doesn't do it for any other TV
Oh
show.
my God, I have
But
to
that-
watch and see why.
Really?
Yeah,
What a track.
Something to do with the music, I think. It's
Yeah,
very
it's probably
a lot of hats too. Maybe it's the feathered hats. I don't know. No, very boring.
Lynda, Lynda, when you were a child, did you tell stories and act out things? I mean, was that always part of your personality?
I always used to tell stories because I couldn't read. And they didn't notice that I had dyslexia for a very long time. You know, they did. And it was sort of dismissed, really. Even when I held a book upside down, the teacher says, "Why are you reading that upside down?" And little did they know I couldn't read it at all. But, you know, I'm a big advocate for anybody with dyslexia, that in schools, they can't wait to put, you know, a slap on their head. They've got dyslexia, they've got anorexia, they've got whatever.
Yes.
It's rubbish, you know. We used to just get on and do it, never mind. And my father used to say, "Oh, don't worry, she's just thick." And, you know, nobody worried, really.
Well, maybe if they had messed with you too much, you wouldn't have ended up doing what you do. It
Yeah.
probably,
What do you mean? I'd have
well,
killed her.
it probably encouraged your imagination or helped you be who you really are without anyone sort of forcing you to be something different.
Did they
Yeah,
know?
maybe, I don't know. But
they
I mean, you know, going to the Royal Academy of Dramatic Art is a huge thing. You know, it is the most prominent drama school in England. And they have about 10 places per year, and there's thousands of auditions from all around the world for this. I had no idea. And my speech teacher at the school, because I had a bit of a stammer. Oh dear, this stammering dyslexic. Anyway, she said, "Why didn't you go and try for RADA? And I'll put you," and I'd never been to the theatre. You'll understand. They are at the Royal Academy of Dramatic Art, and I'm going to audition.
How
My
old were you?
parents had no notion what RADA was. I think my father thought I was going to a pub. But anyway, off I go. And you've got rows and rows of people waiting to audition. And you go in by the number. And you are given 3 pieces of, you know, to audition. And you have these disembodied voices from the audience sweeping in. And I went in and they said, "Good afternoon. And what is your first piece?" I said, "I'm going to do Joan of Arc. She was a young girl who was in France." And they said, "We are aware who Joan of Arc is, dear. Please just carry on." So I then realized I was in very high heel white shoes. I also had on a very frilly petticoat under my frilly skirt. So I said, "Do you mind if I take my shoes off?" "No, dear, take them all." I said, "Could I also take my underskirt off?" "Yes, as long as you don't want to take anything else off, please go ahead with your audition. Thank you very much." And I got into RADA. I got a scholarship. Rest is history.
This is
Well, you
true.
did. You went from acting to, and then what was your first writing project?
Was a series called Widows, which was phenomenal hit. I mean, extraordinary. It's all about widows taking over from their husband on an armed robbery. And recently, there was the big screen movie directed by Steve McQueen
I know,
of
that
the
was,
same story. But that was my first written thing. And then I did Prime Suspect. Da, 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 da.
you just had the 30th anniversary.
I know,
They celebrated you.
I know.
It was a
Very
big
old.
bash. It was a
Huh?
big, it was a big bash that
Yes,
celebrated.
it was. It was a very, actually quite touching, really. And Helen sent a wonderful film congratulating me.
That's Helen
She's a
Mirren.
dame and I'm not. How come I'm not a dame?
Did she at least thank you?
She always thanks me.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
That's
always.
good. She makes
She
up for
always-
that.
She is one of the rare few. She always thanks me because it changed her life, you know.
Good.
Well, I've changed a lot of lives.
This is true. This is true. I mean, I can't tell you how many times we're watching a show because we watch a lot of British TV, and we're like, well, Lynda gave him his first start. Lynda gave him her first start. It's a lot of fun.
And now you're writing the prequels to Prime Suspect when she was younger, right?
Tennyson.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm enjoying that because it's formulating her character. Because you actually think, well, how did that woman in her mid-40s, a high-ranking, where was she before? How did she get that allure, and how did she get that control to become, you know, such an iconic figure? And so I've loved gradually writing more and more and more about her life, and developing that side of her. That because I was very fortunate, I did have a very high-ranking female officer working alongside me, and she was somebody that taught me. Well, I'd give her a piece of the script, and she'd read quite fast. She'd flick through and go, rubbish. No, well, that's rubbish, 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 rubbish. So I said, why is it rubbish? She said, oh, well, you're blathering on. Get to the point, get to the point, get to the point. Cut, 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 cut. And it was extraordinary to learn from her, you know, how to interrogate. And so because she was so determined that I would produce a real character, and even when the script was in and they were discussing, you know, scenes, I remember one of the producers said, oh, we can't have this scene. I mean, she's picking up bits of the dead body. So I said, well, why? She said, well, you know, surely she should show some emotion. I said, she's a police officer. A doctor can't, you know, constantly be in tears if he's looking at a dead body.
Yes.
But it was fighting for every single element of it.
I want to say something. Our friend is a psychologist who is involved with working with a young woman who is a prisoner, kept a prisoner.
There's a famous case
here in the United States.
Her name was Katie. She was kept in a box. And our friend
Mary Bromley said that she learned so much that made her into the interviewer that she is by watching your shows.
She just wanted us to tell you that it changed her life.
Yeah.
And she's a very successful therapist.
Yeah.
But what I don't, so for those of you who haven't seen Prime Suspect, the main character was groundbreaking because she was vulnerable. She was a woman in a time when women police officers weren't happening or accepted, or there was a conflict with the men. And yeah, Lynda delivered all of this whole new genre and personality. But Lynda, how did that come through you? I always think it's sort of like a channeled thing when you channel your characters.
I think everything that I do writing-wise, I go to source. And that means when I pitched, well, the reality was I had one huge success, Widows. And then I kept going up for all this other work. And basically what most people were saying was, we'd like, you know, a real strong female bank robber. I said, well, I've done that. I've done that. And I began to realize that every time I went in with an idea for a new project, they didn't really want to listen. And so I thought about it and I thought, now go in for the next meeting and keep your mouth shut. Let them tell you what they want. So instead of, you know, well, I've got this great idea about this ship that goes in. I got, no, I'll walk in, stay calm, controlled. And so I said, so what are you actually looking for? And the producer said, well, we're kind of interested in looking for a female plainclothes police officer working in the probably murder investigation. And I said, that's unbelievable. I've been working on that for 2 months. She said, really? I said, yes, I've done a lot of research in that field. Hadn't done a blind bit, nothing. So she says, what's it called? And I said, Prime Suspect.
Really?
Manna from Heaven.
Wow.
Just plopped in. She said, oh, I like that title, Prime Suspect. That's good. Yes. Okay, well, listen, why don't we go for this? Oh, my God, I had to run home. I mean, I had to, I was like a lunatic, ringing up the Met Police saying, have you got a female high-ranking policewoman not in uniform? Can you help me? Can you help me? And bingo, I got this incredible woman,
Oh, I love that.
DCI Jackie Moulton.
Wow.
She wanted it on the screen for real. You know,
Yeah.
so every time I inched away from what she was telling me to do, she'd go, no, 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 rubbish, rubbish, go back to what I just told you. And she was also, you know, as a writer, you learn to be very sponge-like.
Yeah.
Now, I never use a tape recorder. I never use notebooks, even when I'm interviewing the serial killers in prison, whatever. Just go, because it puts them off. And Jackie used to be a fond of stories. And she'd open the script and read through, and she said, where did you get this from? I said, you. She said, did I tell you this? I said, yes, you did. Oh. And she was in the script over and over again, didn't even know it. And so ever since then, I don't do anything without, I can't take an actor by the hand and say, do you want to see who you're playing? And I remember in Prime Suspect, we have a wonderful actress called Zoe Wanamaker.
Yes.
Sure.
She was playing the killer's girlfriend. And she said to me, I can't find her. I don't know where she is. I said, well, I'll take you to see her. But you just have to watch and be patient. And we went into Selfridges, and that is a big department store here, and over to the cosmetic department. And I said, you see the girl at the far end with bleached hair? That's her. And she just moved along the counter and she said, oh, that's lovely, darling. That's very nice on you. I love that color. Yes, yes, I'd do that for you. Yes. And she picked up her voice. She picked up the way she moved her hands. And she said, it's actually unbelievable, because suddenly the layers of the character formed. And then I said, also her favorite garment is a small red fox jacket. And Zoe Wanamaker just brilliant actress, you know, and that's what it's like when you work with wonderfully talented actors.
Was she
I
in
just
the
got
Ice House?
chills.
Was she in the Ice House?
I'm not sure.
What was
Who?
she in the Ice House? Zoe Wanamaker?
I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, she's the lead in the Ice House.
Yeah, she's
With-
terrific. She's Sam Wanamaker's daughter.
I didn't know that. Yeah, that movie had Daniel Craig. She was great in that. Huh.
Linda,
See,
I
so-
get chills when you talk like that, because, and you remember everything. You sort of have a photographic memory. I know this in real life because
Yeah,
you remember everything so vividly. But that's why you make these characters so real, and you know everything that's going on in their lives like they're real people.
yeah, they are. And you know, it's like somebody the other day said to me, where do you get your plots from? Why? You know, so you take my new book, Vanished. How do you kick off on a novel? And do you sit and kind of work out a new plot, put the characters? And it's kind of like a jigsaw. And one day, about 3 years ago, a friend of mine, he was quite a close friend. He also had a son who was the same age as my son. And he said, I've been invited to a very posh party not far from where you live. And I said, oh. So I got all dressed up. And truthfully, the house we went to was no more than maybe a 20-minute walk from my house, down a narrow lane, which I had never been down. And this house was enormous. It was a Gothic, huge mansion with 8 acres of land. It had a mini Greek theatre, 2 swimming pools. It was astonishing size. And it was so secretive, this house, with giant walls and hedges. And I thought, I never been anywhere like that house, because there was something also eerie about the house, and eerie about the man who I didn't know who was giving this party. And so that house stuck in my head. And then the same person that had taken me to the party called one day and he said, my son committed suicide last night.
Oh.
And that shock and kind of link somehow to that house just formulated the beginning of something in Vanished, because I have never known such shock to take you by complete surprise. And so in Vanished, it kicks off in this enormous, incredible house with this very bizarre woman. And it just spirals into an incredible story.
I can't wait to.
Excuse me. Just excuse me.
Oh, Lynda said that her doorbell, was that her door or?
It could be the dog.
Are you here?
No.
Oh, they're delivering a car today, you said.
Okay. All righty. How long will you be?
We get very personal here on SR.
Okay. All righty.
Who told you
Just
she's
ring
our
the
friend?
doorbell.
She is our friend.
Okay.
I don't see her doing this on the British morning shows.
You'd be surprised what went on the morning show. Oh dear, the same thing.
We used to do the morning shows, and one time we would read tarot cards on Good Day New York for Channel 5, and a woman calls up and we hear her disembodied voice. My son is my son going to get out of prison? And Amy and I pull the cards and we both say at the same moment, no. And she said, good. And she hangs up.
Whoa.
That was the card delivery. It's amazing. I don't know how to turn the phone off. I know it's rather sad, as I've had this phone for 25 years, but I do not know how to turn it off. And I'm the only person here in the house.
It's okay. We understand this is real life.
Yeah, Ask the Oracles is real life.
Lynda, another thing that I find so fascinating that you've done probably since your first book is you interview notorious murderers in jail.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
now, are you ever afraid? I mean, that would give, I mean, I'm fascinated, but it's kind of scary too.
No, because, I mean, for one, it's not as if one is there without your officers around you.
Yeah, but you interviewed Bronson, the guy.
Yeah, well, Charlie Bronson is, I think, probably the most violent prisoner held in an English prison for so many years. Yeah. But I've known he writes poetry and things. But Charlie Bronson, I mean, I think he's been in prison for 30 years. He's murdered inside prison. But I've got to know him so well, and he does a lot of cartoons and sends me funny cartoons. But he's also can be a little bit worrying. I mean, I had a secretary called Alice once, who was quite posh. Hello, La Plante Productions. And she came in one day and she said to me, Charlie Bronson has been on the telephone. And you understand? Charlie Bronson gets to make calls from the prison. And I said, so what's the bother? Well, he doesn't like the new set of crayons she sent you, and because he said they're rather cheap and he wants better crayons. And he's also told me to send him a pair of my used knickers. So I said, but Alice, just hang up. Don't let him be rude. He must always call me Miss La Plante. Well, I'm not going to answer the phone to him again. So then I get, hello, it's Charlie. I'm so sorry for insulting Alice. I said, Charlie, you mustn't speak to people like that. I know. Will you be my bridesmaid? I'm getting married. And I go, so this terrifying man is getting married, wants me to be his bridesmaid. So I said, I don't think I can do that, Charlie. But in the madness that he goes through, Charlie Bronson, he is very, very dangerous.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
You can have things like, I mean, for example, I needed to know how you cajole a prisoner out of his prison cell. And there's a whole, psychological things you can go through. You could go to loads of prison teaching sections to be able to know how you draw and calm somebody down and get them out of a cell, particularly if they've got a hostage. So it's hostage negotiation and all that. So I wanted to learn about hostage negotiation. And so I happened to mention it to Charlie Bronson.
Oh,
And
God.
he said, oh, well, I can help you there, because he's held a number of prison officers hostage. He said, I can help you there. I said, how can you help me? He said, well, I've got my tapes of my trial. I said, what? They taped you? He said, yeah, I've got the tapes. They used them in the trial. So I said, so you have, he said, well, my lawyers have to have the tapes to defend me. I said, oh, well, that's very nice of you, Charlie. He said, I'll get them delivered to you. So I get the hostage negotiation tapes in a very big envelope. And I have to say, one of the biggest things that surprised me is the dialogue on the hostage tapes and how they eventually negotiate to get them. They bore them to death. So you have these tapes where it goes, morning, Charlie, how are you? Oh, I'm all right. So did you have your breakfast, Charlie? What did you have? I had scrambled eggs. It was a bit of brown bread. I don't like the white bread. Oh, I don't like white bread. I like brown bread too, Charlie. This went on.
He has a hostage at the same time?
Things what?
He has a hostage while they're talking to him?
No.
Oh.
What?
He was holed up.
In the
And
movie,
in the end, the negotiation, he wanted to get a helicopter, £20,000, and a blow-up rubber doll. But eventually he got so bored, he gave up.
Oh boy.
But you have the opposite twist to that story, and there is always a flip side. The flip side is that the officer who was held prisoner by him had a complete nervous breakdown, which he has never recovered from.
Oh.
And so there's always those balancing acts that you do. So Charlie is an extraordinary, freaky character who sends me all these poetries. And the first line of every poem is never walk backwards into a madman's cell. He puts it on every piece of paper he writes, never walk backwards into a madman's cell.
Chilling.
So but I'm always quite careful, and you have to hide what you really think.
Yes.
the movie of that Tom Hardy played him, Bronson. The movie Bronson. I mean, it showed him fighting. They used to have to use an extraction team to get him out of the cell, and it would be like 8 guys with shields and helmets and clubs, and
he's that dangerous. Yeah,
and he would be naked.
And he's like he that's his big ego to be Charlie. I mean, he's now changed his name from Charlie Bronson again to Salvador somebody. He keeps changing his name. But to me, to make a movie of Charlie Bronson, I don't really agree with at all, because it makes him an iconic figure in prison. And he's not. He's a very dangerous prison. He always has to be segregated because he will kill other prisoners and he will kill officers. And when I say that, he's either strangulation or violent. So he's this kind of very weird seesaw character of, writing some very beautiful poetry, but at the same time, if he flips, and I even met his father once. And he said to me, of course, he's stupid. He's stupid because he only went away for 5 years originally for some robbery that he'd done. And he got out, and his father said, he'd been away 5 years. He didn't know what time the bank's open. And there he is with a sawn-off shotgun and a balaclava sitting outside the bank waiting for it to open. So, of course, they picked him up, didn't they? And he's got back in. So, that was the original crime, a very, burglary or something. And he's now been in there, I don't know, 35 years, I think, and mostly in solitary.
And you originally interviewed him because you did a show about prisons.
Yes, and a character based on him. And so he was, this is why I got to see him so much, because he was in the prison that I was using. As I had to build a prison, because to be able to actually film, the amount of filming required was, you couldn't use an ordinary prison of straight Britain. And then one time, true story, there was a very big escape from a prison, and a prison called Garfield. And a helicopter came up over the wall, straight across and down, picked up 4 prisoners, went up and off. They eventually did recapture them. But I wanted to mirror that in my TV series, The Governor. But I had to go to various prisons to discuss going over the wall and down. And in Ireland, a prison in Ireland, I said to the prison governor, I need a big yard because I want to bring a helicopter in. And he said, Mrs. La Plante, let me tell you this. If you could get a helicopter in my prison yard, you can film for free. And his second in command said, I wouldn't say that, sure, sir. She does a lot, She does a lot of things, this woman. And he said, no, so get the helicopter over the wall and you're free. So I had a guy, a wonderful pilot, and he'd been in Vietnam. And I said, can you do it? Can you do this? And he walked around and he said, I could get 2 up and over and down. So I had to go back to the governor and say, I can do it. Now, all the prison yards have those wires across with big orange balls on.
Yeah.
That's to stop a helicopter coming down.
Oh, because of you?
Yeah. And but now they all use them anyway. But now one of the interviews, because I had to interview a lot of prisoners to find out how the plan to bring this helicopter in and make the escape, how it was formed and who was part of it. And, some of them lied, everybody at the prison said that they were part of this amazing escape. But of course, they had nothing to do. They all wanted this kind of, hero worship that, yeah, I was on the escape, I helped. And then the funny, odd stories that came out, like one of them said, well, yeah, I did bringing them down. I said, how do you mean bringing them down? He said, well, nobody noticed that in the ping pong table, we had no bats. And the ping pong table bats, he was using that to bring the helicopter down. So I knew that was a good one, and that was true.
Yeah.
And then this other guy said, I missed it. I was supposed to be on the helicopter, but I couldn't get there quick enough. So I said, well, how did you get the nudge to go? He said, I was carrying my coffee mug. And when I ran, the mug slipped out of my hand. And that gesture, suddenly I knew he had been almost on the escape. And bit by bit, you build it. But it takes a long time of all those interviews. We had this helicopter I'll send you the episode, because when you see this helicopter coming up over this prison wall, it really is the most exciting thing. Fantastic.
All of your shows are so exciting. We've watched every one.
And so innovative. I mean, you invented sort of you were the first person to use the split screen and to show action going on in 2 places, 3 places sometimes.
But I used the split screen because of my fascination with forensic. And I was in a laboratory watching a forensic scientist working a hair out of a buttonhole and a button. And it took him nearly the entire morning that I was there to slowly get this one hair, and it had the bulb on the bottom, which is a very important hair for DNA. And it was so exciting to watch him. And I thought, I couldn't put that on screen for 15 minutes, you know, but I could have that on a split screen at the top, and then another scene going on, and so that they were joining and moving together. And that's the whole reason that I began the split screen.
Wow.
So good.
Yeah.
I mean, so effective.
And plus you
Yeah.
would always you were ahead of your time with the subject matter, like the internet and the drug situation in the UK. I mean,
Yeah.
it's so impressive.
Sometimes, you know, Monte, it's not good to be ahead.
You're talking to an Aquarius. I know.
But you can't help it when you have this, when you're,
I know, but sometimes to be ahead is not, you know, that was in Killer Net. And
Yes.
truthfully, you know, when Killer Net came out, you know, the net was just not there.
yeah.
Now, you know, the advancements and the dangers of that are such that I could actually redo it.
I think
it's
it's
good.
good. And you happen to be on a show that's hosted by one of the leading brains that produce voice over the internet, which is Jeffrey here.
Yeah, Jeffrey,
Yeah,
you have to watch Killer Net.
Killer Net. And what year was that?
Oh,
That was in
yeah.
the 90s, right?
yeah.
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 And you predated crimes that happened after the show.
Also, you were talking about fentanyl when nobody was talking about fentanyl in one of your
Yeah.
plots.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking how.
And it's like, but I'm very fortunate because I do have, over the years, I made so many contacts with the police and with, you know, the scientists, because I do get a little edgy when I watch any, you know, crime show, and I can hear they're all off kilter. It makes me so angry when you see somebody saying, "Oh, we've just got a toxicology report in," and you think, you only just brought the body in. You can't have a toxicology report.
I know, we noticed that too.
It just gets me so annoyed.
But aren't you the only crime writer who's ever gotten an award from the forensic scientists?
Yeah, I'm a member, an
Wow.
honorary member.
And
of
everybody,
Forensic Society.
Lynda has a wonderful podcast. It's called Talking to the Dead, which is very popular. Where
Listening to the dead.
Yes.
Right.
And it's like, you know, it's hard to believe that you can get so much time out of an interest out of blood splattering. That you can actually have a scientist that can give you so many details about blood splattering that you would never ever consider.
Well, they
There's
made
a very interesting interview in a case of a young girl who died with a pole that was jammed into her chest, and her father had blood splattering because he said it was when he went to give her help, she went coughed, and that's where the blood splattering came from. And it's the forensic scientist. I mean, I was in the lab with this red stuff in my mouth and some tomato sauce. He says, "Go on, cough," and I'm going, and he said, "There, you see, that's a very good one." He was,
Oh no.
that's how the blood splattering, how it means, and what angle it comes from.
Yes.
And it's amazing.
But that's why your shows are so realistic.
Yeah.
People are so, I mean, when you have a thriller, which is what you write, it's sort of like that horror of fascination where you're repelled, but you want to know and figure it out and be a detective. You know, it forces all of us to sort of try to figure out what's going to happen. And you don't write so much about the gore and something horrible happens, but then it's all how people react to it.
Yeah, that to me is, you know, to glorify you're a killer. I don't glorify them. They're like there for me to catch and
Yeah.
put away.
Yeah.
To me, there is never as much care for the victims. You know, and I'm always asked, why do people read a crime novel? And I think it's because they read a crime novel and they get, you draw them in to go, yeah, I know. I've got it. No, I haven't. Yes, I have. Oh, she's got me there. Don't know that. Keep on reading, keep on reading. And at the end of it, you may have learned something, hopefully, but at the end of it, it ends. But in real crime, there is no ending. Your daughter, your beloved son, gone.
Yeah.
There's no ending to that. That remains with you your entire life. And catch the killer is just part of it, put them away. So I don't really want to get into the psychological sickness that makes somebody kill, rape, murder, innocence. And if I've only ever worked on a case that had a child murdered, and I said I would never ever do it again because of the research I had to do with families whose children had been murdered was so poignant and so distressing.
That's the one with Reese Evans,
Yes.
the Trial and Retribution.
Yeah.
One of the first ones, I think. That was one of the first episodes.
Yes, it opened it, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, that was. Do you know? I think about that show often, and it was on a while ago. But it was so realistically portrayed, and he was so realistically portrayed.
Yeah, because that was very, very interesting, because that was another area that I found very interesting, is that when you are representing a killer, your whole point is to prove that he's innocent. And in this case, when you see somebody arrested for the murder of a child, take a look at them, and they're usually pretty beat up, or they've been running, lying low, or whatever. Then when it comes to the trial, there they are in a smart suit, white shirt, nice tie, haircut.
Yeah.
And so for that one, it was showing Rhys Evans, what a nightmare he was, drugged up before, with his lank hair and filthy. And then at the trial, there was this young, rather handsome boy. And I wanted to show that how devious it is often in a court when you have somebody on trial for a murder, to change their appearance. And their cultural, they're nurtured by their lawyers, how to speak, how to behave. And I'm very fortunate because I have contacts to be able to sit in court a lot too, which I really enjoy. Yeah.
That's the reason I didn't become a policeman, is I knew I couldn't take coming to a scene where a child had been hurt without.
Because your father was a policeman.
Because my father was a police sergeant. I knew that I couldn't do it. And he said, "You're too nice." I said, "No, I don't think so."
You are too nice.
Well, thank you.
It's such a hard job.
You're the nicest person I know.
Oh, thank you, Lynda. Nicer than Bronson?
Maybe.
Yeah.
What about women murderers?
Yeah, you were going to do a project. You were going to
hear as much about them.
You were going to do a project about the last woman executed in Australia, I remember.
Yes, Jean Lee. Yeah. I remember pitching that in Australia. And, I had almost all the money up. And Jean Lee was a rather sorry case of a very young girl who fell off the rails, and her trial was, it was a horrific murder too. But how to write, a horrific murder that she was very guilty of. And also in the script to make it very interesting to say, did she, didn't she? So you keep the horror right to the end of the script. And then I'm pitching it to the Australian film. And we need just a few more quid to make this a go. And I have 3 people in front of me. I have quite a young, pretty girl who was very keen on the project. She's really, really liked it. And then I had a really large woman in the middle who was, well, I don't really know about it myself, really, you know. Now, on the end was a very camp little man. And he said, well, I think it's a waste of time, really, because, you know, the last woman to hang in Australia, well, I mean, everybody knows the plot, don't they? She's going to hang. I said, everybody knows the fucking Titanic sank. How many fucking films of the Titanic have you seen? And at that point, I was thrown out of the meeting.
Oh, another.
So, the murder of Jean Lee, I'm afraid, never got made.
You see why I love this woman, everyone.
Wow.
I'm sorry I swore. I must apologize for my language. I don't usually swear.
No, it's okay. Usually it's me. Usually it's me.
No, I do. It's awful.
No, well,
You
you just, there's so many elements. I mean, first you have to write the book, then you have to pitch it
Yeah.
to somebody, then you have to cast it. All the elements have to come together so well, and you've done that so many times.
Yeah, and it gets harder, actually. You know, you think with experience and success around you, it would be easier. It isn't. It's harder. You know, you walk in and they hate you. They go, oh, she's had so much success. I mean, but and again, as I said, these 10-year-olds at Netflix, you know,
Yeah.
I try so hard to be patient, but it's very, very difficult. And also, I think I did, you know, a TV series recently about the young Tennyson, Jane Tennyson,
Yeah.
and got into such a blind rage. And I was so rudely treated, disrespected. Everything that I said, they ignored. And I just thought, I can't take this anymore. I walked. I just said, oh. And you know, sometimes you get a piece of advice from an area that you really don't expect it to come. And this was a wonderful old producer, had been very, very famous. And I have to say, the fury I felt about the treatment I'd been given and the anger I felt about, you know, I said, do what you want, cast who you want, I'm out of it. I don't care.
You didn't
But-
like the casting and
Oh no, they cast a girl that looked like a duck. Anyway,
Don't tell
he
her.
was at this party and he came up to me and he said, I hear you've had a bad time and you feel very disrespected and you feel really upset that you're shown so little respect by any of them on ITV. And I said, yeah, it makes me angry all the time. He said, listen to me. Don't be angry. Don't waste your time. Success, that will only be the means to hurt them. Go and be more successful. So I said, well, thank you very much. I'll try. 2 days later, Steve McQueen comes up and he said he wants to make the big movie of Widows. So you see, sometimes you get that kicker. And it does, you know, for me to have wasted so much of my time being so angry was stupid.
Are there plans to do another series of the Tennyson books? Because I know they only did one series. Did you tell them that you just don't want them to do anymore?
Yeah.
I got you.
I said, I don't want to do any more. And, you know, and then you get, what I can't deal with is that, you know, because I worked as an actress for so long, I can tell a good actor very, very quickly.
that's your
They
intuition.
were bringing in people that, you know, were absolutely not only inept, but had nothing. And they wouldn't listen. And I'd say, why are you wasting these kids' times? They're no good. Move them on. And they just wouldn't. And then you're often met with, I don't know where these women come from, but they're often very tall, I've noticed. They're very tall and often have very long hair. And this one had particularly lengthy limbs. She said, "Oh, I think we found this wonderful actor. He's so handsome." So I said, "Yes, I do know him, and he can't act." "Oh, that doesn't matter."
Oh, no.
What do you say to that? You know,
Oh,
how can you hold on to your job? I don't know. You just want to smack them. There
And
was one woman, another woman from the same team, the same group. There was a kill of a young boy who was obsessed by this young girl. She didn't want to know. She didn't want to know, but she wasn't a nice, sweet little girl. She was a bit of a junkie. She was out on the streets and hustling around. And he just drags at her shirt. She starts to scream and he pulls. And because she's screaming, he does that. And he has her little bra, a strapless little bra. And that escalates into one move round her throat. And he strangles her. Very fast move. Now, that's all written in A, B, C, D, how you get the bra off, how he strangles her. And now I'm at the table discussing this. I get the long-haired, long-limbed. Well, I don't see how that works, really. I said, "What do you mean you don't see how it works?" She said, "Well, I think it's impossible." I said, "No, it isn't." I said, I'll mime it for you. Shirt off. She has no buttons when her body's found on her shirt. Throat, pulls it, strapless. And I'm doing, she goes, "No, I still don't see how it could possibly happen." So I said, "I'll tell you what, I'm just going to go upstairs. I'll get my strapless bra and I'll come down and I'll strangle you. All right? Just hang on." And she goes, "Oh, no, this is silly. No." And you think, why don't you just shut up?
It's disrespectful. It's
Yeah.
disrespectful. You're a master. So
But you
Lynda,
see how the rage syndrome can be struck like a boxer when you go, then the flame. Doesn't take much for the flame.
is publishing a little better though? Because you're
The what?
publishing with one editor, is that a little better
No,
now?
all editors have a problem.
I see.
All-
it.
They all want to have written the book anyway, or they all think they've written the book. You know, what I can't stand with book editors is that read the book first, just read it, then go back and give the notes. Do not give me a note on page 20 that says, "I do not see how this can actually happen." On the next page up, it explains how it happens. So they then ignore that note. And you think, why are you doing this? Why? They're notes. Read a page, make a note. Read a page. No, read the thing as a whole. The answers to all your notes invariably come within the book. That's the other flame, the boxer match. It's like having a little
Yeah.
boxer match. You go, that's
Yes.
one.
I don't blame you.
I think we need a show about a serial killer who attacks editors and
Yes. yes.
story meetings. And
Sometimes I've also found it very sad. Somebody I know wrote a book that a novel that I was blown out of my mind with it. I thought it had a pace to it, a style, his style. And by the time the editor of the publishing company had finished with it, he had lost his voice. It had gone.
that's
You go, how they've cut him out, cut his voice. And that is sometimes it's very, very difficult, I think, to get the strength, because publishing is a very tough world. I mean, I'm very, very fortunate to have such good company backing me up all the time.
which is
Yeah.
Bonnier, right?
Bonnier, yeah. So, yeah, they
can't
back me
believe-
up 100%.
That's wonderful. Yeah, we love our publishers too. I can't believe an hour has gone by so quickly.
We have 2 more minutes, wrap up time.
Has it gone?
Yeah, so what books are in the stores right now that
And
people
what's
could buy
coming
of
out
yours?
next? Something's coming out this summer too.
What books? Oh, there's the Tennyson. There's of course I can't remember any of the titles.
I know.
But are the ones behind you on the shelf, are those
Yes,
the ones?
I've got
Buried?
Vanished is coming out. I think that's a hardback, and then there's paperback. Unholy Murder. Unholy Murder is a new paperback. unholy man. I do 2 a year.
We
She said,
know.
flamboyant. I do 2 a year, darling. Well, I mean, the reality is not many people would be such a workaholic as I am. It's just
You're
I
very
can't stop.
disciplined. You're very
Huh?
disciplined.
Yes,
And,
you two are about as workaholic level as I am.
well, we
I
love
mean,
it.
you're
We love it.
always working.
This is true.
Monte came bursting out of his room, his studio the other day, and he said the book is starting to write itself. And
Wow.
when you're in the flow, that's what happens, right, Lynda? When you're in
Yeah.
the groove, and we love that.
Yeah.
Being in the groove. Well,
Yeah.
thank you. Gosh, this was such a delight to visit with you. I've just have missed
Thank
you
you,
so
Lynda.
much, and
Wow.
we could listen to you all day.
Listen
Thank
to
you. Listen, thank you so much for inviting me on. I've had such a nice time.
Wow.
Well, you're an oracle for sure. You've been the oracle to the whole crime genre.
Well, I don't know about that, but
Well, it's true. You can see your influence on the shows that came after you easily.
I'm
I mean,
just
'cause
very
we watch a
fortunate,
lot.
you know. I'm very fortunate that people read my stuff. The day will come. The day will come when they say, you know, the pen falls out of her hand and that's it. I've had enough. Because it's horrible. You keep having these things, people saying to you, you know, would you like to write about what you'd like for your funeral? And I go, what?
Oh,
I
no.
don't want to write about
No.
your funeral. No. What music would you like at your funeral? I don't know.
Oh my God.
Well, Lynda, we love you. Thank
Much
you.
love.
Thank you very much. I love you too. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
Thank
My
you,
pleasure.
Lauren. Thank you.
Lauren.
Do I
Thank
just
you,
say
Mary.
goodbye and do I press this and just go off?
Well, let's just end the show properly. Guys, if it's Monday, it's time for
Ask the oracles.
We always do that.
the show today, Lynda. Thank you so much. With love from all of us.
Bye,
Thank you very
everybody.
much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Congratulations on